Hello, this is WWE Hall of Famer Mick Foley, and if you want to catch up on the latest in amateur and Olympic wrestling, there's only one podcast to listen to. Subscribe to Baschamania, the Baschamania podcast, and have a nice day. Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Baschamania podcast. This is episode 84, and today, Associate Head Coach at Cornell, Mike Gray, joins the show. If you haven't subscribed to the podcast, be sure to subscribe wherever you listen. Apple, Spotify, Google, Stitcher, Overcast, wherever you listen to podcasts, be sure to subscribe to Baschamania. And if you enjoy this episode, be sure to leave a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts.
It's Baschamania! Let me tell you something, brother. He gave us everything he had in him tonight. What you gonna do when Baschamania runs wild on you? Oh, it's gonna be a good one. And business just picked up here on the podcast. Oh, yeah.
And we are here with Mike Gray, who I was just talking to a friend of mine, Eric Siebert, national champ 20 years ago. And he goes, he was a high school phenom. And I'm like, I know. So super pumped to have this conversation. And I really started following wrestling when your athletic career was winding down. So the majority of what I know about you is as a coach, and what all my friends in Jersey, they don't stop talking about you. You're like revered, So I'm excited to kind of dive into your story, but I want to go right back to the beginning. What got you even started in wrestling?
Just blue collar family. My dad wrestled in high school. My grandfather wrestled. So, they signed me up for a local PAL program in Denville, New Jersey, and it worked out well. Also, I had a lot of energy. I had like ADD and stuff when I was a kid. So just a way of getting some energy out of me, and it gave me, it's kind of funny because it kind of led me to develop focus, which is kind of funny, right? So you have a kid that, has ADD or whatever, who lacks focus, and you put them into, a sport or an area, and they really excel and they enjoy it. So I think ultimately it goes to show you that you have to, you have to have interest, and you have to be drawn into whatever you're doing, whether it be, school or, whatever field it is. I think that, keeping the attention of kids is really important, and that's what I'm teaching guys.
The life lessons wrestling. I always talk about in this podcast, I was a terrible wrestler, but the discipline it taught me, the focus it taught me, just the life lessons it taught me are so valuable. But more than that, because for me, it panned out well with business and other areas where I'm extremely disciplined. I sacrifice a ton. Wrestling taught me that. Wrestling obviously taught you a lot more than that, because you had a lot of success on the mat, especially all throughout high school. You saw such an incredible amount of success, becoming the first 4-time state champion in Jersey, one of the toughest states in the country. First, what do you think led to all of your early success?
I think just really a passion for it. I really I love wrestling. Obviously, it's my life work. But when I was younger, I'd love to compete, to challenge myself. I love the toughness aspect of it too. I took pride in working hard and probably just the example that my parents set for me. My dad worked for New Jersey Natural Gas, a blue collar guy. And my mom took a small hospice that was, I think it had like 10 employees and was in Clifton, New Jersey, and ended up growing it to 35 or 36 states and like thousands of employees. So, I think more than anything, just seeing my parents working their butt off and sacrificing to give me everything I wanted and to give, myself, my brothers, anything they wanted, athletically or just in life. So my big thing was, maybe I was kind of a thinker at a young age and really understood the sacrifice, but I was just like, I don't want to waste, any of their money, any of their time. my dad would drive us an hour each way to practice when we were younger for Pascack Hills, which is, up in like Bergen County. So it's about an hour away from my hometown. And that was the big thing too. Like, don't waste my time. Like if I'm taking you here, like you're going to give maximum effort. You're going to work your butt off. You don't have to win, but you're going to fight your butt off. And if you don't do that, then we're going to have a problem. So,
and what happened that where you continued, like you become a state champ, and then it's always interesting to hear the perspective of once you've attained a level of success. I hear from a lot of guys how hard it is to maintain that, because now there's a target on your back. You talk about guys like Burroughs and Dake and others on the senior level, or even guys like Yanni in college, where it's like targets on your back, everybody's watching you. When you're having that much success, did you feel a ton of pressure to maintain it?
So for me, it was like when I was younger, like I said, and making sure I don't waste my parents' time and things like that. Obviously, you want to succeed, but you don't really see the big picture. But as you get older, it starts to become your dream, right? And it becomes your journey, I guess.
Sure.
Not to say your journey when you're younger, but like you look at little kids playing soccer and stuff. The little 4-year-olds. I got my little boy, right? I'm going to put him in soccer next year or whatever, right? It's just something that the parents are doing for the kids. They give them an activity, right? So once you get older, once you get to, your high school years, it becomes your journey, and you understand why you're doing it, and what you want to get out of it. Most importantly, like kind of what's your why? Why are you doing this? What do you want to get out of this? Things like that. So for me, and my dad did a really good job of this. Just kind of pop in the bubble and never let my head get big. So it was always, trying to achieve greatness and, never thinking that, you're the biggest, fish in your pond or whatever. Because I was the 4-time state champion, and that's wonderful, but I didn't win Fargo every year. So my dad was just like, that's great. You know what I mean? But you didn't win Fargo this year, so you're not the best.
Right.
You know what I mean? So just always, giving me new challenges and knowing what buttons to push and really just, whether it's, I don't know how people view it, but never being satisfied, right? There's always more, right? And then even when it was, you're a 4-time state champ, you won Fargo, that's great, but are you going to be a national champ, NCAA national champ, right? That's next. And always pushing for more. And a lot of people say, you didn't get to, enjoy what you did then, but I disagree. I enjoyed it along the way, but I was always looking to, to get better and just kind of move on to the next thing and continue to, I guess, chase greatness or whatnot at each level. So that was kind of our thing.
Yeah, and when you do have those hurdles, like being a 4-time state champ and losing Fargo, or even I believe you were 158-2, I think, in high school. Yeah. So when you have those couple of losses in high school, or you lose Fargo, does that, from a humility standpoint, your coaches and parents tend to use that for you to keep you in a proper perspective? Mm-hmm. When you were competing as an athlete, what was your perspective on those few high school losses or losing Fargo or whatever it might be?
I took them well. Obviously you don't like to lose and you don't lose very often. But it's all about your perspective, right? And for me, I trained a lot at the Edge with Ernie Monaco. He was my club coach, and Dave Esposito. And then I trained a lot with freestyle with Coach Buxton and the Blair guys. So I was always challenging myself, and I was always losing a practice. You know what I mean? Like I was never. And my parents did a good job, and my coaches, they never wanted to create this environment where I was just always winning. And you don't get better that way, and you develop, an ego or some type of personality disorder, so to speak. You know what I mean? So and I was always surrounding myself with high quality individuals, fellow athletes, but also coaches that were always pushing for more. They always had high goals. You know what I mean? Like Kellen Russell, he was one of my workout partners in high school. Max Shanneman, Jared Platt. They weren't winning state titles, but they were winning prep national titles, right? And they were winning Fargo titles with me. So we just held ourselves to a higher standard. And not to say that winning a state title is not awesome. It's it's the the epitome of greatness, you could say, in high school, whatever, right? Like being a
I wish I was a state champ.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not downplaying being a state champ, but we just, we were just always looking to, I guess bigger goals.
It's the age-old saying of, shoot for the moon, you're still among the stars if you miss.
Yeah.
That kind of concept. Did you take losses like officially, like only 2 losses? So when you're losing training, did you keep that same perspective on the mat? 'Cause I feel like some people, when they win so much, they struggle real hard when your losses are few and far between.
Yeah. So no, I mean, I didn't change a ton. Like I lost my junior year at the Beast, and I lost my senior year at the Beast. So those were 2 losses. No, I didn't change. I didn't change much. I was just like, I'd analyze the video and see what I did wrong and make those corrections and just keep plugging along and keep training hard. I think it's something I preach to my guys. You can't overreact. When you lose, you just got to make your corrections and stay the course. Because if you overreact and change your ways every time you lose, even if you don't lose often, right? You're going to be traveling a lot of different directions. Right?
It's the same with business too. Like even with business and work and life, if you don't rebound really quickly, that loss will impact you for so long. You'll miss out on future wins because you're not able. For me, if let's say we don't get a client and I dwell on that instead of putting my focus on the client that I can get or should get, you can't dwell on it. And I've started to really see a lot of those parallels. So when you have this analytical mind, even through high school, I'm even more curious than what led you to Cornell as an athlete. And being that you're still there coaching now, if you want to use this as your recruiting pitch, have at it. But I'm curious what led you as an athlete to Cornell.
So for me, the big thing was, just the people you're surrounded with, right? So Cornell has such great people. It's a great school, and obviously it's a great wrestling program. We have great facilities. The Freeman Center's, second to none. We just put a great addition on it. So when I was coming out, I was like, okay, this is the best combination of athletics and academics in the country. There's nobody that compares with it, right? And even to this day, nobody compares with it in the sense that if you want to, get a first class education, if you want to, get an Ivy League education and wrestle for national championships, wrestle for, Olympic and world championships, there's no other place you can do it. And it's not really comparable, right? So I knew that I had high goals, and, comparing all these schools, I was like, Cornell's a place that can get me to where I want to be. I want to get a first class education, and I also want to compete for, national championships and see what I can do internationally and things like that. So, that was my big thing. And then also at the time, I got recruited in 2006. The Freeman Center was originally built in 2003. So the Freeman Center was 3 years old, right? Yeah. Beautiful facility, first standalone facility of its kind. Cornell wrestling really, I guess made the blueprint for wrestling facilities, and also made it viable for athletic departments to put money into wrestling. If you look all around the country now, everybody's getting a new wrestling room or building their own, and they're all, beautiful wrestling facilities. Cornell was first, and then we just re-upped the Yanni. We just finished our addition. All the branding's being done now, but it's, once again, the best wrestling facility in the world, honestly. We have 7 in wrestling mats of space that you can train in. And,
I gotta get down there and see that.
It's unreal. Like nothing compares to it. So honestly, a lot of the stuff that drew me in as a student athlete and coming out of high school now draws me in again, or I should say would draw the kids in again, because, our facility is brand new again.
I know. And that doesn't happen. Like you said, like Cornell was pretty much a pioneer in that space, and now to reinvent that and maintain that status is pretty impressive.
And it just speaks to, Rob and, and his, his mind and the way that he's really transformed college wrestling, right? So he's taken the head coaching position of a college program and made it, really a CEO. Yeah. And he's the first person to do that. You're no longer just a wrestling coach.
Right.
And all of us, it trickles down for everybody, right? We're not just worried about going in there and coaching wrestling. Obviously, recruiting, fundraising, building your brand, building your camps. All these things are what a wrestling coach is now. And Rob was the first to, I wouldn't say first to see, but I'd say first to be okay with it and say, you know what? I don't have to be in the room constantly. That's why I have great assistant coaches, and don't get me wrong, he's in the room all the time, but it's just like, I can do both. I can manage to, engage our alumni and continue to build our, alumni base and fundraise like a machine and get these guys these great facilities and recruit like a machine and have great camp systems. You know what I mean? And then obviously have great coaches, assistant coaches that can continue to, bring the team along and do all those things. So Rob, like I said, he's the ultimate leader. He's a pioneer, and I've just been lucky to be coached by him for 5 years, and then this will be my 10th year coaching with him. So,
and you met your wife when you were at Cornell, right?
So my wife is actually, I met her in high school. So we didn't date in high school, but yeah. So she was a stat girl for the local high school. So if I went to my public high school, which is Morse Knolls, she was a stat girl, and we were friends for a while, and then after college I ran into her at home, and the rest is history, right?
So then she moved out there. That's very cool.
Yeah.
So speaking about your athletic career at Cornell, so here comes this high school phenom. You're one of the most widely recruited kids in your class, if not the most recruited, and you don't have the same level of success in college that you did high school. What was that transition like from high school to college? And what do you think was different from the success you saw in high school to your athletic career in college?
That was a good question. Realistically, right? So I was a two-time All-American. I lost twice in the All-American round to Daniel Dennis and Tyler Graff, right?
Everybody knows.
Guys, right? And I beat them both during the year too. So, did I want to be a national champ? Yes, but if I win those two matches, I'm a four-time All-American, right? I'm in that sanctity there. So, it's a different, a different story we're telling, right? Four-time All-American. That's, it's pretty great, right? So, I guess ultimately I don't think I was that far off, but I think that. I think I had such great training, and I had such great training partners in high school that I don't think that there was much more for me to grow, unfortunately. On the wrestling side, I was always super competitive. I just, unfortunately, maybe I topped out a little too early or whatever it might be, but, I know one thing, it wasn't from lack of effort. So,
No, for sure. And it's always interesting to see the success at both sides, right? Where you see what happens when some kids who don't have a lot of success early on and then become super successful after, or vice versa. And I'm always curious if it's burnout, if it's just, like you said, for you, with guys like Tyler Graff and Dan Dennis, it's timing. It's not that these guys are so much better than you. It's timing. What was your expectation going into college? Was it, I'm going to be undefeated, four-time national champ? Like, I feel like that's what everybody says now, but was that your expectation then?
Yeah. Here, you got to have realistic expectations, right? So we have goal meetings every year with our guys, and they come in and say, I'm like, listen, it's not in the cards. You're not right. You mean, like, you won like 2 state titles is like, I appreciate it, but you got to be realistic too, right? So I think realistically, I wanted to, win a couple national titles and, be a four-time All-American. You know what I mean? I think that I knew it was going to be tough, but surprisingly, my freshman year is probably my best year. Like, I was ranked number 2 in the country, and if I didn't slip up at Easterns, I would have been the number 2 seed at nationals, right? So you never know. It's you just never know how it goes. So. I think it's a tough question, and I think that I don't think I was burned out at all. The burnout thing, I think if you're enjoying it and you have a great group around you, you're just going to continue to excel and really enjoy yourself. But no, I think that the guys that are like just really good athletes but haven't been coached well, I think those are the guys that are coming, like Gabe Dean, for instance, right? Not that he wasn't coached well, he just didn't wrestle a ton, right? He was a really good quarterback and really focused on football in high school, honestly, right? And then he came to college. He's a really, really, really good athlete and focused on wrestling, and and then you take his athleticism and his toughness, and you also put him up at 84, right? And those are all great. All things that lead to the recipe of him, being a 2-time national champ, 4-time All-American, 3-time finalist, and he's still doing great now. So I think that if you have a guy that has a ton of potential, but maybe isn't as coached up or isn't as, I would say isn't in a program or isn't in an area where it's just like, tons of wrestling, or who's a two-sport athlete like Gabe, then there's a lot of upside. Whereas I was, around the best coaches and I was getting great training and all that good stuff when I was young. So I don't think that there was necessarily, a ton of upside, or I wouldn't say upside. There wasn't a ton of growth to be had because I was
potential. Yeah.
Yeah. Cause I was pretty much there. There wasn't things I was seeing that I didn't realize. There was obviously adjustments I had to make because college is a different level. But I was on the right track when I got there. Whereas guys were just like, I don't know what's going on. And then they learn and they end up, just growing and doing some great stuff.
Yeah, and I mean, you did end your college career 2-time All-American, 4-time NCAA qualifier, 2-time EIWA champion. Like, you have a lot of accolades and you had a lot of success. What do you reflect back on when you look back at your college career? Excuse me. Do you have some favorite matches? Do you have certain moments that you reflect back on?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, I just, I realized as I got older and older that and this is how I knew I wanted to coach. I started to enjoy the team's accomplishments and others' accomplishments more than mine. Yeah. You know what I mean? So I was just like, it's great. I was a 2-time All-American and I really enjoy that. And it's something to be proud of, but I really, I'm really proud of the 2 second place finishes we had as a team, my junior and senior year. I'm super proud of, somebody like Kyle who was able to stay the course, and I was able to, be a teammate and also coach him, when he won 4 different weights. That was really neat. Frankie Pirelli, who was my high school teammate, my college teammate, I got to coach him my first year coaching, his senior year when he took 4th place in the country. So that was super cool. So I just started to realize that, when I was a senior or when I was getting older, that I really enjoy, my teammates' accomplishments more than my own. And that kind of, showed me that I should be coaching probably, and that I'm near the end of my competition career because I don't really, not that I don't have to fight anymore. It's just that I prefer to see others achieve their goals, and I prefer to help them work towards it than, I guess, doing my thing.
Yeah.
So.
And having that passion, did that help? It's funny. I've heard such a variety of answers when I ask people, what was the transition like from athlete to coach? And it seems like for you, it was a natural progression. Like Gabe Dean said the same thing when he was on here. It was such a fun transition because there was that passion to help others. Like, what was that like from you?
So it was interesting for me too, because I always coached like Team New Jersey and Fargo when I was in high school and stuff. So, when I was in college. So, I knew I wanted to coach and I really enjoyed it. But then my senior year, I tore my ACL in like June or whatever. I was actually wrestling with my little brother, getting ready for Fargo. And I thought I just like hurt my knee and, just let it rest it for a month and then start it up again. And then I got an MRI like October or whatever. And I figured out I tore my ACL. So I was like a player coach for pretty much the whole season, except for like the last month, like late February, and then EIWAs and nationals and stuff. Yeah. So I was a late addition. So I was kind of like a player coach. So that even made it more clear in my mind that I wanted to coach, at the college level, because I got to view wrestling through a different lens, and that really helped me, finishing out my career with a torn ACL and being able to, win some matches and get on the podium one last time. Just being able to see it through a different lens. And, I didn't really struggle with nerves a ton, but just letting go even more, being like, there's nothing to be worried about. You should enjoy this because this is your last go around. You know what I mean? Like, you should enjoy this. And I mean, even going on trips, going on the bus, going to schools, going to Harvard, you know what I mean? Seeing some cool stuff. It's just like, this is the last time, and I wasn't even competing. They were just bringing me along as a player coach. You know what I mean? So it was really cool to see. And then also to, help the guys and just kind of pick their brain. And I think that helped me a lot when I was a young coach too, because it's hard to coach guys that you're on the team with. You know what I mean? It's really hard to coach that you're on the team with. So that helped me a lot. my first couple of years where I was coaching guys that I was on team with. So I didn't want to like,
Yeah, you don't.
yeah. Tommy Tough Nuts, like, we're doing this now. It's like 5 weeks ago, you were with me. What are you talking about?
Right, trainer.
I mean? Yeah. So, it helped me manage that, or I should say, help me bridge that gap. So it was really cool, and it was good.
And it's funny how much it's come full circle now with you as a coach. I heard you say last year that the team was coming to your house for Thanksgiving, and I know Yanni well, and I know how highly he thinks of you. And it seems like there is such a family culture at Cornell. I had Gabe on here. It seems like, especially right now more than ever, there's such this culture of brotherhood at Cornell. Talk to me about this culture that I think it's safe to say, if you ask any of the young guys right now, like Vito and Max and Yanni, they're going to say you largely helped contribute to this culture at Cornell. Talk to me about what the culture is like there and what you've tried to help bring to the table to that.
Well, I mean, I think that, like, we're a family. Like, that's the easiest way to put it, right? Obviously there's cultures and there's, close tight-knit teams, but we're just a big family, honestly. Our guys really enjoy being around each other. I think we genuinely have each other's backs and have, we have the best for each one of us, like, in our heart, and we really want to make sure that we can do anything we can, whether it be academics, if you need help, in the classroom, if you need help in the wrestling room. Like, we ultimately just want to make sure that, from a coaching standpoint, that these kids have everything they need, but just from a community standpoint, I want to take care of these guys. I want to treat them like they are my son, and ultimately that, bring that family aspect. It's a family because I have a little boy, my wife's pregnant with our second right now. So I want to make sure that I'm surrounding my family with quality kids, and that's the biggest thing for me, making sure that we bring in wonderful kids that are just going to buy into this family and are just going to really flourish, they're really going to flourish from being, part of this family. So it's not really that difficult if you bring in the right kids. And that's what we do. We do a really good job of recruiting the right kids and the right families, right? Because you're not just recruiting kids, you have the families as well. So doing a really good job of that, bringing in the right kids. And then the big thing that we do is we get them, get them indoctrinated fast. So, the kids, they come on campus and, it's like, listen, you're coming over the house. We're going to have some dinner. We'll watch a movie. We'll watch wrestling. We'll watch, the Khabib fight. We had a bunch of guys over for that. Just getting the guys around, what I do personally around my family, get them to, get their guard down and allow them to really just open up and be themselves fast as possible. Because as soon as they can do that, then they're really going to enjoy their time. They're really going to, show their teammates and show everybody, who they really are. Like, they can let their guard down and relax and enjoy themselves and feel like they're part of the family and feel, welcome as soon as possible. So that's really what I like to do. And, my wife's huge. She's probably, more of a reason why, and probably
she's the one who tweeted back at me, and I'm like, all right, guys, I've had 83 people on this podcast or 83 episodes. Like, tell me who you want to hear from. And she jumped out. I'm like, that's right, I should have Mike on the podcast. So you can see how actively involved she is.
She contributes to the family aspect probably, just as much as I do. She loves having the guys over. She comes to practice all the time with Declan, and Declan's running around, and she's like a team mom, I guess. You know what I mean? She likes to just chat the guys up and see what's going on. And I think the biggest thing is it's just not that we do as a staff is, like, I understand that you got to, be invested in the wrestling and the academics and stuff, but you got to be invested in their lives in general. Yeah. We really care. We really care what's going on. We really care, how's it going? I care how's it going. You know what I mean? So, like, we really care about the kids. We care about their well-being. We care about them as a whole, not just their wrestling, not just their academics. And I think, not that other schools don't do that. I think it's a luxury we have here because we don't have scholarships. So, I feel like there's less of a perception, or the kids feel like they're less a piece of meat. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not to say that kids at scholarship schools feel like that, but maybe some of them do. So I just know that there's none of that tension at all, because there's no scholarship money. It's like, oh, you gave him more money, you care about him more, blah 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 blah. No, it's just we're a family, and it makes it really easy to have a group of kids that are as great as our Cornell guys are, for sure.
For sure. And when you talk about family, an important component to family is consistency and timing. And you look at a guy like Rob Cole, who's been at Cornell for what, like 32 years, something like that now.
Mm-hmm.
And you've been in Ithaca now for about half that. To have that consistency and leadership is amazing. When you talk about wrestling programs with longevity from a coaching standpoint, Cornell's right up there. What is your relationship like, Rob, like? I mean, I got to imagine it was fun to go from him coaching you to being you're on a team with him, but he's your coach. Now you're on a team with him coaching together. What is your relationship like with Rob?
No, it's good. I mean, I think that, if anybody knows Rob, he's super energetic. He's fly by the seat of his pants guy. He's awesome. You know what I mean? He's high energy. He's all over the place in the sense that he's got lots of ideas. He's always looking to, do something new. And I mean, that's kind of why, and that's kind of how, a good little segue. That's how we got the Spartan RTC rolling. The new, the new name and, that whole thing. Because
and I want to talk about that too.
We'll get into that. But he's just such a high energy guy, and that you wonder why we have such great alumni and such a great support system at Cornell. It's all because of Rob. He's got such a great personality. He's a really funny guy, and he draws people in. He's got an infectious personality. People want to be around him. So for me, it was an easy transition going from athlete to coach. Just being able to learn from him and just really, I mean, my big thing was just be a sponge. That was the thing for me. I was just
so
like, be a sponge,
to do that. So important.
Just take it all in. You know what I mean? Yeah. Take it all in. And then obviously as you get older, you develop your own ideas. But at first just take it all in. You need to learn from him. He's, the best in the game. He does so many things very well that you're going to need to be able to do when you have your own program down the road. So I've just been a sponge, and it's been it's really been a pleasure to just to be beside him and learn from him and, just be a part of this program. It's been unreal.
Another relationship that you can tell is blossomed over the years from afar even is you and Yanni. Yanni's a hometown friend of mine, and I've had some candid conversations with him and some public conversations. And like I said earlier, I know he couldn't hold you to a higher regard. I'm curious from your perspective what your relationship is like with him. And to that, he's good. Just let him. Speaking of Yanni, like Yanni acts like a second dad to him, so it's only fitting. It's only fitting that he wants to come in for Yanni. I'm curious what your relationship is like with Yanni from your perspective, and how you've been able to develop the relationship you have. When he talks about you, it's like, it's funny. We talked about family. I think he reveres you like a father. Like it's, let me talk to Mike, or I want to talk to Mike. Or the one time I remember being on the floor at NCAA's a couple years ago, and he was sitting there with you. I think it was probably Saturday morning or Friday morning. And I remember just the intent and look. Like you can tell, talking about being a sponge, he's taking in everything you're saying. I'm curious how that relationship has evolved to what it is.
No, I mean, it all started when he lost the fix at Flow, and then he started coming down to RTC practices. I think he wanted to come down, but and Rob was like, hey, this kid he's obviously pretty tough. You want to roll around with him and kind of show him some stuff, and sure. So it all started there, and just working with them, and he's always been a sponge. We talk about being a sponge. He's always been a sponge. He's always been.
He's a brain. He is a wrestling brain.
No, he really is. And I think the big thing that we have is I mean, now it's been ingrained over a long time, but we just have a lot of trust for trust in each other. I would say. Jackson, be quiet, bud. So the big thing with me and Yanni is when he first got to Cornell, and you have that 4-month growth from August to November that you hope is going to happen, and you expect to happen with really high level kids, you know what I mean? And that happened for him, and just kind of building his mind up, and telling him, teaching him about toughness, and teaching him about what working hard really is, and how there's got to be a goal every day, and how there can be a mental test every day, and you got to try to answer the bell, things like that. Yeah. And then you fast forward to NCAAs, and tears his ACL, and he calls on every one of those lessons and stories and blah 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 blah, and it gets him through it. And I feel like, he was always a guy that had a high respect for me, and I was his coach and all that stuff. But I feel like when those things happened, and he was able to depend on me and lean on me, and I and kind of use the teachings that I gave him to get through that tough situation. It's like, you lived
up to it.
Happen?
Right.
How often does it happen where you're training, and you have all these stories and stuff, and then you actually have to use it right then and there.
Like a test, right?
Like the timing never happens. And it never works out like that. It's always down the road, or this life lesson I learned from wrestling. When I'm 50, right? But boom, it happened right then and there, and it just. It helped him immensely, and then from there, he's just like, this stuff is, it's unreal, and it just really caused him to trust in our relationship even more than he already did. You know what I mean? Because he's the type of kid who likes to have somebody, kind of bounce ideas off of, and because that's what his dad is, right? His dad's always, when Yanni was learning how to wrestle, and when his dad taught him how to wrestle coming up through high school. Even now, his dad comes down and watches practice and stuff. But in high school, especially, he's always looking over to see if that was done right, or if he needs to change something up, because he's always looking to adapt and to make sure his stuff's on point. And that's what he loves to do, right? So, I was always there for him to look over when he was in high school, when he was coming up to RTC practices, wrestling with them. And then that just kept evolving. And now, we're 8 years deep, I think, or 7 years deep with it. He first came up when he was 15 years old. Now he's 21 or 22. So, yeah, so now it's like you said, yeah, it is like a,
and it's funny too,
or whatever it is, however you want to put it.
Yanni has had so much success, so he's easy to put on that pedestal as a fan or a coach. But you've also helped guys like Nashawn Garrett win an NCAA championship, and you're helping guys like Vito now and Max. And I'm curious, as a coach, you need the athletes to kind of pour into you so you can pour into them and help them. And I'm curious what it is that you look for in athletes, where if there's a younger wrestler right now who wants to get the most out of their coach, what do you look for in an athlete? What can athletes do to make sure that if they have someone like you see certain guys like a Yanni who take as much as they can out of you, and Yanni does a very good job at setting himself up to receive that. What can athletes do, and what do you look for in athletes to be able to help them to their full extent?
For me, the big thing is just, guys that they're giving maximum effort, right? So they're working their butt off, right? They're always giving me everything that they have, and then in return, it's easy for me to give them everything I have, right? So it's it goes hand in hand. If I'm getting out of bed and getting up at 7 a.m. for a workout for you, you better be there, and you better be ready to work.
15 minutes prior.
Yeah, right? Yeah. That type of thing, right? You know what I mean? Especially now, not to say it was easier, but when I was younger, I was fine with that. But now I have to, make plans if I'm going to get in for a 7 o'clock workout. You know what I mean? I got a little guy, my wife, I got another one on the way. It requires plans, guys. So if I'm going to get up and you're going to be in there, you better be ready to work, right? So that type of thing. So I guess back to your question though, openness from both parties, honestly. Yeah. Right. So a thirst to learn from the student, or from the the student athlete or whatever, and then the coach also being open to just pour into that kid, right? Yeah. And the biggest thing for me is something that I learned obviously when kids are young, you got to just teach them, and this is how you're going to do it, and you're going to do it because of this, right? But one thing that I've learned from Yanni, right? So and that's the other thing. I've learned a lot from Yanni as well. So that's part of the relationship that some people don't see. Like obviously when I'm training him, right? It's what I say you got to do. And I mean that sounds easy, but Yanni, he'll just run through a wall, right? But just seeing things through his eyes and understanding that there's not just one way to do it. When I first started coaching, I was like, we'll do it this way, But now, as I've developed in my 10 years of coaching, just kind of seeing that there's different ways to do things, and there's different ways to train guys, and certain guys need certain things. So the coach being able to read the kid, right? There's certain guys where you're going to run them through the wall because they're grinders and they love to train that way, right? Where there's other guys that they get injured a lot. Maybe they're injury prone, so you got to change up their training, and you got to be a little more I guess a little smarter about when you push them and when you pull them back and things like that. Where other guys are just rocks and they can just train hard all the time. So I think that there's a lot of trust. Ultimately, there's a lot of trust we have from both parties. But when I'm looking at a kid, like the biggest thing is they're annoying me at times. Yeah. Because they want.
I wish I would have annoyed my coaches more. I really do.
Yeah, honestly. But like, hey coach, can you help me with this? Hey coach, can you help me with this? What about this, coach? Hey coach, can you help me with this? Help me with this. Help me with this. You know what I mean? Like those are the guys I'm looking for. And then when I see them out there scrapping, I'm like, this kid's got potential and he's up my butt. Like, this is great. And then you start pouring into them, and then they pour into you, and then and then, like I said, that leads to a great culture, right? Because then you get kids that trust you, and then it makes it easier. They want to come around for dinner. You know what I mean?
There's a relationship.
It all meshes together, and it leads to a wonderful family. But it all stems from the relationship with athlete and coach. Yeah. It all stems from that, and then that's where the families take over, and my wife does a good job, and all that. Gabe obviously does a good job. Kyle and his family do a wonderful job with the guys. But it all stems from that player coach relationship and developing trust. I think that's the biggest thing. And having the student athlete want and have a thirst for knowledge, and then the coach wanting to really do his job.
And it becomes like such a tight-knit thing that I can only imagine, when you were competing, you mentioned the second place finishes. I think it was 2010 and 11. Yeah. And now as a coach, I imagine that not only contributes to that itch to get the team back there, but having that family relationship with these guys and wanting that, what does that all do for you to want to win a team championship? Not even just getting back to second place where Cornell was when you were there, but even trying to get that championship. And now, I mean, I don't know if it's going to be this year or next year, but Cornell has an absolute squad of hammers. Yeah, I can only imagine what the optimism and excitement is right now for this program.
Yeah. I mean, I think ultimately we want to win for a lot of people and a lot of reasons, obviously. But ultimately, I mean, me personally, I just want to, I want to win for these kids because they're putting the work in. Yeah. And ultimately, I truly believe that, hard work never goes by the wayside. So these kids have been working hard for a long time, and not just in our room, their entire lives, a lot of them. You look at Vito, look at Yanni, look at Max Dean, look at Ben Darmstadt. You know what I mean? These guys have been working their butts off for a really long time. And I'm excited for them to get what's coming to them. But obviously, like we all know, right? You're never given everything. You got to earn it. You got to take it. So that's the big thing. That's kind of what we're preaching this year. Go out and take it. You know what I mean? Go out and take it. But no, I mean, winning a national title would be huge. We'd be there's only 7 or 8 programs. I think there's 7 programs that won national titles.
Something like that.
So we, and us being Ivy League school, right? So it would just be, it would be unreal. It'd be so great for our alumni, for our fans, for our institution, for Coach Cole, who's grinded for 30 plus years. I think he's at 32 years, right? He's been in the trenches, taking Cornell from, a program that had one wrestling mat, for practice to what it is now, you know, in a dungeon somewhere. So no, there's so many reasons, and there's so much motivation to get the job done. I mean, obviously it'll just even make your recruiting that much better. You win a national title, right? So there's so many reasons why. But ultimately, I think the top reason should be for these kids to get what's coming to them. You know what I mean?
And you mentioned what Rob was doing in his mind and with the Spartan wrestling or Spartan Combat RTC. I want to talk to you about that for a few minutes. So for those listening that don't know, previously it was the Finger Lakes RTC, underwent a major rebranding this summer, is now the Spartan Combat RTC. Talk to me about what went into that. And, you know, we're in this culture now where RTCs are like just growing rapidly with what they're doing. What went into rebranding the RTC, and why did you guys do that?
So Joe DeSania, he's the president, CEO of Spartan, right? So Spartan Races, you know, worldwide, huge company. He's a Cornellian. He graduated in '90, I believe. And we talked about Rob and his ability to, you know, bring people into the program. Obviously, it wasn't a hard, I guess, sell or you know, a hard guy to build a relationship with, because Spartan, right? Their brand is built on toughness is built on you know, physical fitness. Just you know, it's an easy mesh between wrestling and Spartan, honestly. So, but yeah, so Joe's a Cornell grad. You know, Rob did a great job of bringing him into our family. And he's you know, he's in love with wrestling now. He has two sons that have come to our Cornell wrestling camps for the last 3 or 4 years. So long story short, we got him on board, and he was like, you know what, I want to take the RTC. I want to rebrand it. I want it to be Spartan. I want it to be first class. I want you guys to have everything you need. I want to, you know, get Olympians, world champions, and you know, be the best RTC in the country. So he's working hard with Rob, with our RTC, all of our RTC guys, and we're just really building. So what we're trying to do now is build kind of a platform. So you know, rtctv.com or whatever it is, you know, our Spartan Combat RTC, blah 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 blah. So what we're doing is we're trying to build, you know, like I said, this platform where you can get technique, you know, workouts of the day, you know, obviously events. We're looking to put an event on in early January.
I was going to ask about that.
Yeah,
you see the NLWC doing events. You see the Hawkeye Wrestling Club doing events. And with the talent you guys have from Dake, Yanni, Vito, the list goes on. I mean, the event you guys can put on.
So we're looking to put an event on in early January. You know, if we could do New Year's Day, that'd be pretty cool. So we're looking into that, but we're definitely gonna have an event in 2021 in the new year. But you know, so the big picture of Rob is just trying to, you know, just give people a ton of content from our program. So, and not just the Cornell side of it, like, you know, the RTC side of it, so they can see what our world-class athletes are doing, what Kyle Dake's doing for the day, what's his training schedule looking like today. You know, just giving people, you know, this a one-stop shop. They can go to the site and they can kind of get training. You know, they can get a daily motivation from Joe DeSania. You know, so it'll tie in Spartan, right, the Spartan family with the Cornell wrestling. And the Spartan RTC family. So it'll be really cool. So that's kind of, I guess, the brainchild of Rob and Joe and Gabe. Gabe's really close with Joe as well. So, you know, they're all working and we're all working to try to get this thing squared away and you know, kind of be the first, right? So the other RTCs are doing a good job with their events, right? But they're just putting on events. We're trying to make it like a whole, you know, a whole one-stop shop.
It'd be cool. And it speaks volumes. You know, so many people, you know, I'm working with Sunkist kids on the marketing side. We're doing a website for them and some other stuff. And, you know, it gets brought up a lot about bringing these big sponsors and these big companies into the sport because there is so much value for them. A lot of people in the wrestling community, you know, when Cal was on here, he was mentioned like people want to be more self-sufficient, but there are still companies that aren't looking for somebody with their hand out. They're looking to say, bring me value. And there is so much value in wrestling. And to your point of Rob kind of being a pioneer in that, I don't think any other RTCs have a brand that came in and rebranded it to be a part of it.
Yeah,
Like,
no,
that's huge.
Yeah, no, it is. I think, well, I think the biggest thing that it does is it gets our, our RTC out there, right?
Yeah.
So, you have Joe DeSena tweeting about wrestling all the time now
Yeah.
on his Spartan Twitter, right? So the goal for wrestling right now, especially in the climate we're in, is to reach the masses.
Exposure.
Right? And exposure and becoming more and more and more and more mainstream.
Yeah.
Right. MMA's done a good job because it kind of took away the stigma that wrestling had. You know what I mean? So that's been good. But now we got to keep pushing, right? We got to keep pushing. And I think that our partnership with Spartan is huge, right? And it, once again, right, Rob being a pioneer, right, it makes the world see that it's an option to put money into an RTC, right? That it could be a valuable partnership for both parties.
And it could also it could trickle down, because from there,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
like, you don't think Joe's going to want a guy like Yanni to be a brand ambassador for Spartan. Like, it trickles down.
100%.
It's not just an RTC level thing. When you get these brands, when you get their eyes open, I've seen it with businesses I've been involved with, where people come in and you get roped in. You go to NCAAs a couple times. You go to some of these tournaments. You go to some of these practice rooms. You get roped in. And I think the more brands that can come to the sport to see the value, not just to give a donation, but to see the value and make it more transactional, that's huge for the sport. The sport needs more of that, because there's a lot of value wrestlers and wrestling can give to bigger companies. I don't care if you're a car dealership or you're a Fortune 500 company. I think wrestling can bring something to the table.
Well, no, I think the big thing is what you just said too, is handout, right? We don't want handouts, because that's just a one-time thing. Here's your donation, we'll see you, right? Whereas we want these companies to be invested in us, right? Emotionally, right? Physically, to see the great things that our sport can give them, right? And to see, like you talk about Yanni being a brand ambassador, or Kyle, right? that can be huge for Spartan, to see what a world champion, a world-class athlete, what his day is and what he does, and whatever's going on, right? So I think it's huge for these companies to invest in wrestling and really our high-level athletes.
And if you talk about going mainstream, you have to, obviously I come from a marketing place, but what MMA has done so right to make it mainstream is tell a story. So if you want to make wrestling more mainstream, you need the story. You need the Kyle Dake versus Jordan Burroughs. You need the lead up from Kyle's side, the lead up from Jordan's side, and then you throw in conversations with Nolf and Imar. That's how you bring wrestling more mainstream. It's storylines. I've never been a technical guy. I got into wrestling as a young kid when I wrestled because I loved the WWF at the time. I loved it. Yeah. And from there, it taught me so much. And then afterwards, I was watching NCAAs, and Cael Sanderson became a client. And then, I started getting more and more invested, especially in the storylines. Okay, Cael's, a client of mine now. I want to see how his guys are doing. And then you start forming relationships. And it's still, I've never been a technical guy. I think every now and then somebody's like, oh, so-and-so's on your podcast. That's great. Why don't you ask him this technical question? I'm like, because I don't understand that. I'm a marketing guy. I love the stories. I love the branding. I love wrestling, and I appreciate it all. But you need the storylines. And that's one thing that's missing. If you can bring in companies like Spartan to help tell those stories. And a lot of people say, well, we don't have the money to do this. Bring in somebody who has the resources.
Yeah. Right. And has the infrastructure for it already, because they're doing that for their races right now. Right.
Yeah.
They're telling the stories. They're getting it out there.
Right? And if you look at some of these guys, like, I remember Damon John said it on Shark Tank, and it was perfect. He's like, I've created a marketing company just to run my companies through. It's not to go take on normal clients and do their marketing. It's so that when he buys a company, he runs it through the machine. Gary Vee is doing the same thing.
Keep it
running it through that machine. So I think the more brands that can get involved, and I love seeing stuff like this, to see Spartan come in and team up. And I know I'm excited. I can only imagine some of these matches. You guys got to be having a feel. Have you started trying to put matches together?
Yeah, we're working on it. We got some cool stuff coming away, because Joe, there's no place that's off limits, because he has races all over the world.
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
he has races all over the world. So you never know where we have some of these matches.
If you guys aren't like following and like tweeting and getting into this, like I don't know what will do it. But all right, so last thing I want to ask about real quick, and then I'll let you go here is, I saw your tweet and I saw some tweets after the World Championships. USA decides not to send a team. What was your thoughts to that?
I mean, ultimately,
I'm disappointed beyond belief.
Yeah.
But
no, I mean, I'm disappointed, but ultimately it's USA Wrestling's call, right? So, but no, I think that there was a lot of folks that wanted to go, right? There's a lot of folks that wanted to go, and I understand the delegation and the safety, and I'm all for that. I understand that, but ultimately there was going to be 30 wrestlers and we'll say another 20 from delegation. So there's 50 people. I think you could have found 50 people that were willing to deal with the risk, but I think that as an organization, USA Wrestling couldn't allow the risk to be taken.
It's going to be so this whole upcoming season is going to be so bizarre with the December World Championships. Nobody knows what's going on for the 2021 season. The Olympics.
I mean, the biggest thing that I tell my guys, I'm like, hey, we're in COVID, baby, so be ready to go, right? So everybody, some people didn't want the Worlds because they didn't want the trials because they weren't ready for them. Like, my guys, be ready.
Right.
Be ready. That's on you. If you're not ready to wrestle, that's on you.
Yeah, and if you look at the top guys, you look at Yanni, you look at David Taylor, Jordan Burroughs, Kyle Dake, you see these guys posting content showing I'm ready. So it's definitely disappointing. It's one of those things that I'm thankful I'm not in that position because I know there's going to be people, no matter which side you take, that are going to argue you. But
so it's either side, people are going to agree with you. People are going to say, how could you want to put people in danger? It's like, it's their choice. Like, if the USA Wrestling, decided to let guys go, and it's like, hey, if you want to go, come to the trials. If you think it's too dangerous, then don't go. And that's fine. You know what I mean? But ultimately you couldn't just, take the discretion of certain folks and be like, I want to go or I don't want to go. It had to be, a choice for the organization. It's either all or nothing, which I respect. And I also respect the fact that it was just like, no, right? And had a press conference, and that's good leadership, right? That's good leadership. You stand by your choice, and you let people ask questions, and you fire away, and you answer their questions, and then that's it, right? And I think that's really good leadership in the sense that, they're matter of fact, and there's no beating around the bush, and there's no backpedaling. It's, we're not going. Here's why. That's it. And I can appreciate that type of leadership, though, because I know as a leader with my guys, I try to be straightforward with them, try to, shoot them straight and be like, listen, this is the facts. This is what we're doing it, whatever it might be. And this is the direction we're going in. So I can appreciate that. I didn't like their message, right? But I appreciate the fact that they were straight shooters. So, yeah.
All right. Well, I've kept you for an hour, and I told you I wouldn't keep you for more than an hour. So unless you got anything else, thank you so much for taking some time. Everybody listening, go follow Mike, follow Cornell, support the program. Stay tuned for this event
it's gonna be a cool event. We're excited for it. It's in the works, so I don't want to spill the beans. You know what I mean? But it's gonna be a fun event. Thanks for having me on. It's fun. It's always fun. Thinking back to the high school days and stuff, and college days now. It's been 10 years, so
time's flying. I was at church yesterday. My pastor was talking about how fast time goes. The thing about fast, the past 10 years went like that, gone.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, heck, my little guy's 2.5, and I'll have another. My baby girl will be here in February. So time's flying, and you can't slow down. You just got to keep enjoying it and keep doing your thing, my man.
Yeah, I love it. Awesome, Mike. We will chat soon. Thank you again.
All right. Justin, have a great day.
And that is it for today's episode. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this conversation as much as I did. If you did enjoy this episode of the podcast, be sure to leave a 5-star rating review on Apple Podcasts, and be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on more episodes. For more wrestling content, be sure to follow Baschamania on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And follow me. I'm at JBash on Instagram and at JustinJBash on Twitter. I'll be back with another episode shortly. See ya.
And the beat goes on. on.